Philly Startup Leaders presents Founder Factory 2015. This program was recorded January 13th, 2015 at The Hub at Cirrus Center in Philadelphia. This year's Founder Factory is brought to you by these sponsors: Broadpath, the Innovation Center at 3401, Startup PHL, and Morgan Lewis. In Video 7, a presentation by Ned Moore, co-founder and CEO of Clutch Holdings.
So with that, we're going to welcome up Ned Moore, who is the CEO and co-founder of Clutch Holdings. I'm going to get his deck up, and we are going to get going with that. How's everything going? We're going to have a break after this for coffee and snacks, so bear with us, and let's give Ned Moore a big round of applause.
How is everything going? Is a good day? A lot of good stuff? How about everybody stands up right now because you've been sitting down for an hour and 20 minutes, just for a minute. And this will be the most energizing and important part of my topic, without a doubt. When you feel good, sit down again. We ready? So what I'm going to talk about today is how to get those first couple customers. What kind of traction do you need? And it's a great topic, traction. And if you read through Gabe's book, it's a lot of really good different things you can do to gain traction in an early stage. So we're going to focus today on getting those first few customers. This is mainly a B2B lens, although some of the principles do apply to B2C. But the thing is that when I thought about it, well, how do you get those first few customers? And how do you make sure those first few customers are really good customers, right? Because you're really betting a lot of the company on the fact that these guys are going to be good customers. It made me think about the blue ocean strategy, right? Because part of the challenge we have, first of all, if I just had underpants logo, it'd probably be a lot easier for me. And secondly, I want to let you know I'm not related to Bob Moore. We get asked that question constantly, so that's good news for Bob. But the idea is we all start a company like this, right? We don't start a company saying, wow, there's 8,000 people solving this problem already. Let me go be 8,001, right? It's the blue ocean strategy. It's, hey, we're going to jump into the left side here where there's, we think nobody's solving this problem yet, or very few people are solving this problem yet. That's great, right? When you're starting a company, it's a great idea. Wow, things are happening. Guess what? There's no customers over there either, right? Because a lot of times they don't even know they have the problem. So it's like when we think about blue ocean and what that really means, it means there's a lot of benefits if you can really carve out a blue ocean strategy. I don't know if you guys can read this or not, but the biggest thing is that I like is there's a lot of uncontested competition. If it's really a blue ocean, there's not a lot of people there solving that problem yet. That gives us first mover advantage. It gives us a lot of different things that, I don't have to really worry too much about the competition, because if we can continue to stay ahead of the curve, then we're ahead of everyone else. And we just have to, kind of position ourselves that way. That's the second point, make the competition irrelevant. There's new demand over there, so we're not really, hopefully, trying to create a whole new market. Like, people are going to need to solve this problem. They just may be unaware of it right now. And then the issue is that there's no budget in anyone's budget for this if you've really gone into a blue ocean strategy. So people, I hear investors all the time say too, like, what's the wallet share? How much are you getting in this budget and that budget? And the reality is, if you're truly early stage into a new company, there's probably nobody out there that has a budget line item for your new company or your new space. Right? So good news is we think we have a great transformational idea. We're going to change the world, like we heard earlier today, but nobody knows about it yet. And now you got to go find a customer. So, and by the way, I apologize for any of the imagery on these things. I did it last weekend. I had no help, and I'm horrible at this. And I realized how tremendously bad I am at picking images. So I apologize ahead of time for that. But there's two swing thoughts, and one is you need to get the first customer, at least what we found with both Portico and we're doing it with Clutch now today. Don't just think solely about the sale, right? Obviously the money's good, and you need to have a paying customer, that's really important. But you also want to start figuring out how you position yourself as the thought leader in this new space that you've carved out. And your early customers can be really, really helpful in that regard, or not, if you don't really kind of position that the right way. The other thing is, as you're trying to sell to these customers, you have a new idea, and it's a blue ocean, and this is going to be a great problem that we're going to solve, and everyone we think has this pain. As you're trying to sell these customers, you're going to learn a lot about what you think the theory is for this market. And that's why early on there's a lot of pivoting that goes on. You hear pivots, and we started out to do this and we ended up doing that. And that's because when you talk to early customers and you're trying to get those first customers, they're going to tell you, this is important to us. Or, you know what, that's kind of important to us, but if you could solve this problem, that'd be really, really important for us, because nobody's doing that in the market yet. So listen to those customers, and you know, at the same time, you got to constantly test yourself, right? I mean, does it pass the common sense test? That's what I always say, right? You know, a lot of times we'll get internally focused and think it's the greatest thing in the world, but the bottom line is, if you are the customer, in the customer's shoes, in control of the money, would you buy this solution from yourself? And you know, do you believe that you can deliver the solution that's going to warrant that kind of value and the price that you're trying to charge? So, you know, a lot of this is common sense as you think through it. But again, don't forget that now that we're talking to those early customers, let's make them marketing partners from the very beginning. And let's get them to agree that they're going to be marketing partners for us. Because getting traction with customers is really hard, right? Especially in this environment that we have no customers. They don't know necessarily they have a problem. We're doing a lot of education about why it's important of what we're doing. We're probably doing a lot of education not only on the new market that we're creating, we're probably using words that they're not familiar with because we're trying to carve out a new way of thinking about things. And it's new, 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 new. And by the way, we're a new product and we're a new company. And by the time you get the first 5 minutes out of your mouth, most people are like, this is scary. So, you know, it's hard, right? But I think you will find those early adopters, and you will find those customers who are like, I am in so much pain that I need to have what you're selling me, and I'm willing to take a risk on it. And I think what you need to do is focus your search, right? Because especially early on, you don't have a lot of resources. I mean, there's never enough time, money, and people, right? So if you had to really pick how to prioritize your time on your sales efforts, go for the low-hanging fruit. Right? Go for, you know, who has the most pain? Who are the customers that really, when we think about, I'm going to carve out this blue ocean strategy, who are the customers that really have the most pain? And who are willing to spend money? And those things may not be the same, right? You know, you may have to go after some bigger accounts that may be trying to solve this issue on themselves. They may have an internal build staff, whatever the case may be. And then I go back to the good marketing partner, because there's a bunch of things that I think kind of happen here is you're going to spend money marketing your company, and there's a huge benefit for early stage customers to get the benefit of your marketing dollars also. It makes them look like thought leaders if you do it correctly. Obviously, you get a lot of benefit out of it from your company, but there's a ton of benefit to those early customers to be your marketing partner and to sign up with you to be that marketing partner. The other thing is you're probably going to make some concessions, right? And how do you de-risk the purchase for that customer? And this is one of the ask backs you can have, you know, when you're trying to negotiate for some of those early stage customers. The other thing is the customer going to give me credibility in the market, right? Is it a well-known customer? Is it something that could put us on the map as an early stage company to say, hey, this customer vetted us out, and they are now our customer, and we're allowed to use their logo, and we're allowed to talk about the things that we're doing for them. Is that going to give my company more credibility? And I think if you keep those four things in mind, you start to get a list of customers that you can really go to pursue and try to really figure out how you can go sell. So now that you've got that list and you're trying to figure out who these customers are going to be, how do you sell them and how do you close them? Well, there's always a catch-22 early stage, right? Cash is king. I heard that earlier today too, and it is, right? Don't ever run out of money ever in your startup. That's an off-topic item, but so at the end of the day, how can you use customers' money instead of investors' money, right? There's a lot of ways you can do that, because if your problem that you're solving is compelling enough for the customer, they're going to spend money solving that problem somehow, some way. They may be spending money on it right now. They may not be aware of how much money they're spending on it, but the point is they're spending money to solve this problem, or they're willing to spend money to solve this problem. Don't sell your solutions short. You know, I think early stage companies, I see a lot of tendency to be like, well, oh my gosh, we're only 4 people and they're a huge company and they're never going to pay us enough money. And, you know, and there's a lot of that internal stuff I think that goes on with earlier stage companies. Don't sell yourself short. If the problem demands a significant price tag, try to sell it for the value that you're creating for that customer. Because if you believe in yourself and you believe in the solution that you're providing is going to solve that problem, you should get paid for that. If you don't believe that, then you probably should pick something else to do. But so don't do that. Charge for it. And that helps both sides of the camps, by the way, because the other thing to think about is from a customer perspective, if I do pick an early stage company to solve a problem for me and you do sell me, then at the end of the day, I want to make sure you have enough funds to pull it off. I don't want to be the guy saying they run out of money and they couldn't finish the job. So it's actually benefits for both sides of the camp there. The other thing is there's ways to de-risk the customer, right? So a lot of times in early stage sales cycles, they're going to give you a million reasons why they can't buy from you. I mean, that's true in any sales cycle, but particularly for early stage, right? Well, who have you done this for before? Nobody. Okay, how long have you been in business? About 6 months. Okay, well, I don't really know what else to ask you after that as a customer. So how do you help them de-risk it, right? You got to give them ways to de-risk it. So you can say, look, you're going to solve this problem anyway, with or without me. And if you earn the credibility in understanding their market and understanding their problem, then it becomes a little bit of an emotional sale, right? I mean, when you buy a house, the last part of that purchase is emotional. Any house that you're looking at meets your criteria is probably going to work. This is the one you really like. So at the end of the day, that's kind of what you're selling is, look, I'm going to be here to solve your problem. I don't have all the answers, but I have a pretty good command on this, as you can tell by all the content I've spent, all the PowerPoints I showed you. But at the end of the day, it's going to be largely an emotional decision for this buyer. So how do you help them de-risk it? There's things you can do. One of the things actually is you can get them to pay you up front. Sounds counterintuitive, right? I have all this risk, and now you want me to put money on the table. Well, if I've earned the fact from you that I understand this problem, I can bring a team to the party to help you solve it, help me de-risk my team so I can actually pay them on Friday, and we can solve this problem for you. So that's one of the ways. The other thing you can do is, if it's a software product, provide source code escrow. Say, look, you're going to solve this anyway. If it doesn't really work at the end of the day, you can have the source code, we'll walk away, right? The other things you can do is commit to help them in a transition. So if it doesn't really work, not only are we going to give you the source code, but we'll help transition this back to your internal staff or to someone else who's going to solve the problem for you. So now you start to break. The key is to find out what the barriers are to de-risk the decision, because it's already a very risky decision. And if you think out of the box, you can come up with a lot of different ways if they're being upfront and transparent with you about what their real problem is. A lot of times you won't get that. A lot of times it'll be, they're not going to tell you this, but they're not going to get fired for picking IBM. They're going to get fired for picking a company that nobody ever heard of if it doesn't work out right. So if you get that on the table, then you can start to de-risk it. The other thing that's interesting is if it's a big enough client, they give you enough credibility, give them some upside, right? And there's companies that will strategically invest in your company. That's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about no equity. Just say, hey, look, we recognize that you're going to be a great partner for us. So at the end of the day, we're going to give you a way to recoup the money that you spent solving your problem, and we might give you a little royalty upside for a couple years after that. Definitely put an end date on it. Don't make it like this is the reason why you're doing it because it's going to be a huge upside for your P&L. Make it more about, hey, we're thinking about the fact that you're going to help us build this along the way. Let's get you some value out of that also. And a lot of times, the mere fact that they may have a chance to recoup any of their budget will be a very positive thing. The other thing you'll find out is, as that money comes back to them, we've seen historically they don't take it, they actually spend it with you anyway and say, just give us some more stuff or give us some more services. The other thing I'd say is ask for the marketing participation right away, because you're probably going to end up making a lot of concessions because of the risk profile in making a decision with you. So one of the things you can ask for is, okay, I'll do that, but I want a press release the day we sign the contract to say that you've picked us. You don't have to say that we've solved any problems for you, but that you've selected us to solve this problem. And then you have the ability to craft that story and start to position the new market that you've created and start to position yourself as the thought leader. Obviously, the bigger and the more credible that client is, the more impactful that can be. So once you've got through that and you've gotten the first customer, maybe gotten the second customer, the key is it's all about momentum, right? So don't take a deep breath and sit back down and not pursue that, because success breeds success in a lot of cases. So if you get that first customer, really be thinking about the second and the third customer and how you continue to keep the ball rolling. And in an early stage company with not a lot of resources, that can be really trying. That's the old stage of like, it's the roller coaster stage of the early stage company where it's like, are we going to implode or are we really going to pull this off? right? But the idea is if you wait too long for the second customer feels exactly like the first customer because now you put your head down, you've done all this work, you've solved the problem for them, and now you're really getting ready for the second customer. Guess what? The second customer still has no idea who you are. They still have no idea what the market is. And now when they say, give me 3 references, you can give 1. How many's so you're back to all the same discussions. So use the momentum you have early on to continue to sell. And that's why traction is such a great word because that's really what you want to do is you want to keep that traction over time. So there's a lot of avenues at your disposal to do that, right? Obviously, direct selling in a B2B market is one way to do that. We've heard a lot about PR. I'm a big believer in that also. It was pretty interesting to see what some of the earlier companies were doing. But PR can really make you feel and look a lot bigger than you potentially are, especially as you're carving out a new market. The other thing I'd say is talk to the analysts. Find out who the analysts are in your market, whether that's Forrester or Gartner or whoever they are. And in an early stage company, you can talk to those people for free. It is a pay-to-play game at the end of the day, but early on, they want to be the smart people on the street. So if you're coming up with some good ideas and you have an early stage company, I would encourage you to talk to those analysts because they will help amplify that message if they really believe what you're talking about, particularly if you already have a customer. And that's really good because that's third-party validation. Now that funnels back into your sales process of, hey, oh, by the way, did you see the post that Gartner did on us or that Forrester did on us? And that gives more and more credibility. So the whole idea here is to create the traction, the momentum with credibility with each and every discussion that you have to really help close those sales and get the people that are early stage adopters over their risk curve to become your customer. So a couple thoughts on partnership in relationship to this. Partners can be very effective in helping get early stage traction. But you have to go into every partnership with, they're all destined to fail, right? And the reason is because the partner has their business and you have your business. And if those things aren't really closely matched from a strategy perspective and from an importance perspective, it won't work. So you have to really make sure that your strategy and your sales tactics are aligned with the partner's strategy. I hear a lot of times, and even some in our own staff, even with Portico, Portico is a healthcare company. If I hear it once, I hear it a million times. We're about to close our first Blue Cross, and then we're going to get them all. There's absolutely no way that works. Trust me. Or whatever it is. We're talking to the Accenture partner, and he's going to, we're close to closing a deal with our first Accenture partner, and Accenture's going to sell it to everyone. That does not work that way. So the point is, how do you strategically figure out how to leverage those partnerships? And those things can take a lot of time and a lot of energy. You might need a full-time person managing a relationship like one of the bigger consulting houses. But what they can do is if you're in line with that strategy and they believe in that solution and they see upside for them and they see what's in it for them and that it's important to their strategy, that can be really effective. There's a lot of ifs in there. And if you get there, they'll give you tremendous market credibility. Early on with Portico, we were a small company, and Accenture actually did sell one of our solutions to a Blue Cross. It gave us a tremendous amount of credibility. It was a third-party, largely known consulting house saying you should be using this solution. So we got a lot of mileage out of that. And the other thing I'd say is don't depend on them to execute, no matter how big they are or small they are. I think as a general rule, most companies are not very good at execution when it comes to things like this. So, they have the way they do business, and I think that if you can drive the execution straight down to the goals, how many people are going to be talking to, what's our prospect look like, what's our pipeline look like, how many deals are we going to close in these quarters, really drive them through an execution path on the partner side. First of all, they'll feel like you're driving the bus, and actually you'd be surprised how many people just kind of settle right into that. And you can drive the bus for them. That can be very effective. Secondly, it also makes them feel like you really have your act together. And you know what you're doing, and you're a good partner, and you're going to deliver. The other thing I'd say is, we could go on and on about partnerships, but the other thing I'd say is to kind of shift gears a little bit. If it's a smaller company, and it's a very small company, I wouldn't rule out acquisition early on in an early stage company. That can be a very highly risk type of strategy, but at the same time, it can be very effective. So if you have a piece of the platform that you're working with and you find another partner that has a piece of the platform and you're both hunting the same customers and you see things very similarly, in a lot of ways, you can either acquire that other company or you can merge those companies together, and that might be the sum is worth way more than the parts. The whole is worth way more than the sum of the parts. And that can actually be very attractive to the market, to other partners. So, although it's counterintuitive a little bit, because, hey, we're starting our startup here and now we're going to buy somebody right away, I've seen that work. I've seen that work actually several times. There is a lot of risk in execution there, and culture and integration with the team, and the team is actually the single most important thing when it comes to acquisitions of almost any size, but particularly early on when they're small teams. So I'd say if you don't really have a good cultural fit there, then you might want to not pursue that. So I know I've thrown a lot at you. Hopefully it wasn't as scatterbrained as it kind of felt like, but it was the way I think about these things. So I guess we have a little time for questions, if anybody has any questions.
What is Clutch?
The question is, what is Clutch? It's a small woman's purse. No. Clutch is actually trying to change the world in consumer marketing. So there's a lot of consumer marketing companies out there, very crowded space, but where we're focused on is existing consumer customers. So most people in the advertising space today are using third-party data. We really are bringing the next generation, what we call consumer management platform to market. So if you sell to consumers, we believe that you need a system to manage those existing customers that you have, understand them, figure out who your best customers are, figure out new and innovative ways to market to those customers. And you'd be surprised how big of a gap that is, particularly in businesses that sell to consumers. So we all know about Salesforce and those on the B2B side, and those things are very effective tools. When you think about CRM in a consumer business, and you think about consumer marketing today, it's largely acquisition-based, not focused on existing customers, and the CRMs are largely email marketing lists and supporting call centers. So there's a huge amount of data now with mobile and social in addition to all the transaction data. We're pulling all that into one place and allowing customers to get more value out of their existing customers. Chris?
You mentioned royalty payments to your first customer after the fact if you get other. Can you just describe that in a little more detail?
Yeah, sure. So the question was around the loyalty payment structure for new customers. Basically what we did was, it was a large sale to a customer to help them build some of our platforms. So let's hypothetically say they were going to spend $1 million with us building this platform out. We offered them the ability. We retained ownership in the intellectual property, so it's ours. And we give them 25% of any license that we would sell going forward until they recoup their $1 million. And after that, we gave them 5% for 2 years. That type of structure. No? All right, well, we're back on time for the break. So thanks for listening, and hope it was helpful.
We hope you enjoyed this program. For more information on Founder Factory and the Philly Startup Leaders, visit phillystartupleaders.org. We produce this program in the studios of the Lubetkin Media Companies in Cherry Hill, New Jersey, on the web at beingthemedia.com. For everyone at Philly Startup Leaders and the Lubetkin Media Companies, this is Steve Lubetkin. Thank you for joining us, and we'll see you out there on the net. Take good care.